So we've just talked about how carbohydrates are really easy for the body to overconsume, and how an important process that is in terms of our own evolution as a species. Unfortunately, as I said in the last video, we don't live like cavemen anymore, even though our physiology is exactly the same as the cavemen's, about 97 to 99% the same as the cavemen's. There's some changes that have happened, but in terms of how we store fat and why we get fat, that's exactly the same as it was 35,000 years ago, and probably exactly the same as it was about 1.5 million to 2 million years ago. So let's have a look at exactly what's happening in the body and why sugar has such a potent impact on our fat stores and our waistlines. So the thing that happens when we eat sugar is that our blood sugar goes up. So if you were to take some of those carbohydrates that I talked about down here and consume them, then your blood sugar would go up. Now your brain says, I want your blood sugar to be between two ranges, between an upper limit and a lower limit. So upper limit and a lower limit. And if it goes higher than that, I've got a bit of a problem, and if it goes lower than that, I've got a bit of a problem, because I'm the brain, I'm the most important organ in the entire body, and I need to be kept happy, and this is where I want blood sugar to be. So in an ideal world, your blood sugar stays in there. So if you were to eat something that was very, very sweet, you would have what's called a blood sugar spike, and the blood sugar would go up above the upper limit. Now your body doesn't like that, your brain's not very happy with that, so you produce insulin as a response to deal with that elevated blood sugar. So you produce insulin coming in here. We'll sort this problem out. And insulin takes the blood sugar and reduces it. Now, the idea with insulin is, because it's to protect the brain, it doesn't have much of a dial. It doesn't turn on a little bit. It's like an on switch or an off switch. So you either get insulin or you don't. Now when you get insulin, it does its job very effectively. And its first job is to try to take that blood sugar and push it into the muscle stores. But if we're not very active, and there was a study that I was looking at recently that says for us to have the same level of activity as our caveman ancestors, we would need to spend at least 12 hours a day on a treadmill. And there's not many people out there, I would imagine, that have that level of activity. And so our muscle stores aren't very depleted of energy relative to how we would have been as cavemen. And remember, that's the software that we're running on. So, so our muscle stores don't really accept the energy from the blood sugar. So what tends to happen then is that it gets pushed into the fat stores, because the fat stores will always take it. There's a limitless capacity, and we've seen, you know, programs on the TV about 500-pound teenager from America and what have you, and that's not pound sterling, that's pound imperial, that's their weight. There is an almost limitless supply, a limitless storage capacity in our fat stores, and that's where the insulin will end up pushing the blood sugar. So if we were to eat something else sweet, more insulin. Something else sweet, more insulin. And every time we eat something sweet and our blood sugar goes above this upper limit, we get another insulin hit. Like this. Now, that's a really good reason not to be eating sugar 3 meals a day. That's a really good reason not to be eating much sugar at all. Now, one of the things that we can do is eat fats and proteins with our sugar. So if you eat something that once had a heartbeat, you will take that spike of sugar and it will have much less of an impact, because the fats and the proteins slow down that spike of sugar. So it's another really good reason to always eat with each meal something that once had a heartbeat, be that some chicken or bacon or lamb, beef, fish, salmon, seafood, whatever you want to eat with your veggies and your fruits. So a good idea to keep fruits to a minimum, because fruits are much sweeter than vegetables are. So vegetables and salads make an excellent, great sources of all the vitamins and fibre and minerals that we need from foods that grow out of the ground, and the minerals and the nutrition that we get that's so often discounted and so often not really appreciated that you can get from foods that once had a heartbeat. Protein is very, very important. Fats are very, very important. Protein is if a protein is a building, amino acids are the bricks that make it up, and we have essential amino acids. There are amino acids, there are proteins that are essential to our health. There are no carbohydrates that are essential to health. There are fats that are essential to health, considered essential fatty acids. There's no carbohydrates that are essential to health. So eating food that wants our heartbeat is really, really important for us, not just for our waistline. But what can happen when insulin cracks on is that insulin will cause this blood sugar to crash below the lower limit. And when it goes below the lower limit, that's a problem for the brain as well, because it's now not got enough fuel. When it goes above, there's too much fuel. When it goes below, there's not enough. So what happens here is your body goes into its fight or flight mode, and you produce a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol. And cortisol's official title is it's a glucocorticoid. I think I've spelled that right. Gluco meaning sugar. So that will bring the blood sugar back up. So depending on how strong that fight or flight response is, you may just cascade up and down, north and south of this band, and so you're producing bucket loads of insulin, and then you're crashing, and then you've got cortisol coming in here until it goes up, and you have to produce a load more insulin, until it comes down, and you have to produce a load more cortisol. And that is exhausting for the body. That process, when it goes on for any period of time, is really exhausting for the body. And what it also does is it tells us that there are two ways you can put your blood sugar up. One is by eating something sweet, and the other way you can put your blood sugar up is by having a stress response. And so the way I tend to work with my clients is I use energy levels as a barometer. And if somebody's got pretty good energy levels, I tend to assume that it's not a massive amount of stress that's causing excess body fat. It's probably just their diet. And when I have a look at their diet to confirm that and get some correlation, often that'll be that'll tell us that there's a lot of sugar in their diet. When somebody's chronically tired, like when they wake up in the morning and their energy levels are low, they get to mid-morning and their energy levels are low, they get to after lunch and their energy levels are low, that tells me that this process of cascading high sugar levels, low sugar levels, high sugar levels, low sugar levels has probably been going on in that person for a while. And then diet's really, really important to help that healing process, but you've got to look at that person completely differently. That's a person who's very stressed. And they don't just need to go and sign up for a step class or a body combat class or go for a run. They need to be looked after a little bit more gently because it's a different kettle of fish. So two reasons why we'll store body fat. One is because we eat carbohydrates and sugar, and that sends our blood sugar up, and we produce insulin, and it pushes that sugar into the fat stores. And the second reason is because we get stressed.